Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for joining me. Hello, hello, hello. I do have comments off today because I am going to read through some of the transcripts. So I will turn comments on for a Q&A immediately following after I've finished up, but it just works out a little bit easier for me to turn comments off when I'm reading through the transcripts. So welcome. I apologize for the short notice, but this is the time that works best for me today. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you. Hello, Kristen. Thank you, James. So, hello, Dawn. Welcome. So, this is going to be Mr. Cohen's cross-examination. We're going to get started on that this morning, everyone. So, it is fascinating from beginning to end. I know everyone says, oh, it's pretty boring, but from a legal perspective, from a lawyer perspective with Mr. Blanche and someone who's done a lot of criminal trials as I have done, it's very interesting to me. So I will get started on his cross-examination. I will read the transcripts for an hour, then turn comments on for a Q&A. So again, this is the time slot that's working out the best for me today. So I apologize for anyone that is being inconvenienced by that. Also, I should have part one of Mr. Cohen's lives up on my Tube of You by probably 12 today or a little bit later. Probably right after this live is when it will go live. So just for those of you who are wondering about that. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in, everyone. Again, this is Mr. Cohen, and he's being cross-examined by Mr. Blanche, who I have dubbed is this character. So, Mr. Blanche for the defense. Now we have, oh my gosh, Suzanne, thank you so much. So just to remind everybody, we have the court officers or clerks are in yellow, the court is in pink, the witness is in green, and for defense they are in orange, and then for the state of New York they are in blue. So I will just dive right in, everyone, because this cross is just something else. All right, so at the very top of the page, you can see it's Michael Cohen. We've got the cross-examination, who it's being done by, and then the page that I'm starting on, which is 3650. So here we go. Yikes. So we've got Mr. Cohen being brought in. Mr. Cohen, good afternoon. You're reminded that you are still under oath. Yes, Your Honor. All right, let's get the jury, please. Mr. Blanche, you may inquire. May I inquire? Yes, cross-examination begins. All right, everyone, so hold on to your hats. Oh, my goodness. All right. Mr. Cohen, my name is Todd Blanche. You and I have never spoken or met before, have we? We have not. But you know who I am, don't you? I do. As a matter of fact, on April 23rd, so after the trial started, in this case, you went on TikTok and called me a crying little shit, didn't you? Sounds like something I'd say. Objection, Your Honor. Sustained. Sustained. Do you remember on April 20th, which is again after this trial started, you commented about myself and Miss Necklace about this case, correct? Objection, Your Honor. Sustained. Please approach. At sidebar. Are you making this about yourself? Your Honor. One at a time, please. I did not hear you, Your Honor. I said, why are we making this about yourself? I'm not making it about myself, Your Honor. I have a right to show this witness's bias, and he has expressed bias about the lawyers just because of who we represent. Well, Judge, it's crystal clear under Rule 613 that we are allowed to prove I can't hear you. It's clear under Rule 615 that we are allowed to prove bias in whatever form. It doesn't just matter if it's bias directed at the defendant. It can be bias about the lawyers on this case as well, of course. That's not true. It's not admissible if it's not about the defendant. It doesn't matter if he has bias towards you. It doesn't matter. The issue is whether he has bias towards the defendant. Don't make it about yourself. I'm not trying to make it about myself, Your Honor. I'm just trying to show his bias towards the defendant. Just don't make it about yourself. I'm going to sustain the objection and instruct the jury. Please don't make it about yourself. Sidebar concluded. Judge, I would ask, the objection is sustained. Judge, I would ask that the question be stricken. The question is stricken from the record. That's a rocky start, everybody. That is a very rocky start to cross-examination. All right, so here we go. Mr. Blanche. Again, just to remind everybody, and this is Mr. Blanche here. Mr. Cohen, you've been following what's happening in this trial, correct? To some extent, yes. Well, you know, for example, details around the jury selection process, correct? I have made comments about the jury selection. Sir, I'm not asking you if you made comments. I'm asking if you know, if you learned about certain things that happened during the jury selection process. I'm going to object, Your Honor. Sustained. Now, on August 23rd of this year, so after the trial started, you said that you actually heard what a witness had testified about, correct? Objection, Your Honor. Overruled. You can answer. It's possible, yes. Well, do you recall saying on TikTok on April 23rd, and that's when Mr. Pecker was still on the stand, that from everything that you've heard from people today, David Pecker is corroborating what you have been saying for 6 years? Do you recall that? I do, yes. And that's because you heard from people about what Mr. Pecker had testified to in this trial, correct? Yes, somebody had called me and told me that Mr. Pecker had corroborated what I had been saying for a long time. And it's true that you also have been following what's been happening in this courtroom on CNN and MSNBC, correct? I have seen CNN and MSNBC, but I'm not following the trial. Well, Mr. Cohen, you've been watching CNN and MSNBC during this trial, correct? I have been on CNN and I have watched CNN and MSNBC, but not religiously in order to follow the full extent of the trial. And you have said that you are watching on CNN and MSNBC, maybe not all the time, about some of the things that are happening during this trial, correct? I have turned it on, yes. And that's because this trial is important to you, correct? I do it because at times there are other issues as well that I'm interested in seeing what's happening, like the protests or Israel, or this issue comes up as well. Well, is this trial important to you, Mr. Cohen? Personally, yes. You also talked on social media during this trial about President Trump, have you not? Sounds correct, yes. So for example, on April 23rd, which is after the trial started, correct? Yes. You referred to President Trump as dictator douchebag, didn't you? Sounds like something I'd say. Sounds like something I said. And on that same TikTok, so again on April 23rd, you referred to President Trump when he left the courtroom. You said that he goes right into that little cage, which is where he belongs, in a effing cage like an animal. Do you recall saying that? I recall saying that. And that was April 23rd. So during this trial, while the trial was already going on, correct? Sounds correct, yes. Now, over the past several years, let's go back to in January of 2021, okay? Is it fair to say that the government, meaning the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, have repeatedly asked you to stop talking publicly about this case? They might have, yes. Well, I'm not asking you whether they might have. I asked you, is it fair to say that the prosecutors, maybe not the prosecutors at this table or next to me, but the prosecutors with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office have repeatedly asked you to stop publicly commenting about this case, correct? Yes. And you mentioned earlier today that you previously had an attorney named Lanny Davis. Yes, I had an attorney named Lanny Davis. And during that time period, just let's talk now about 2021. So January 4th in 2021, Mr. Davis was your lawyer, correct? Mr. Davis was one of my lawyers, yes. Is Mr. Davis still your lawyer? No, sir. But in 2021 he was, yes. When did he stop being your lawyer? In 2022. So do you remember in early January 15th of 2021, there was a leak to the Associated Press and you and your lawyer, so you and Mr. Davis, both denied being the source of the leak and you communicated that to the district attorney's office. Do you remember that? No. Can you identify something? Let me see if I have something that may refresh your recollection. Sure. If we could show the witness, the court, and the parties B54. Take a look at that email, and let me know whether it refreshes your recollection about something your lawyer said to the district attorney about you and him. I'm going to pause at this and say that this is a horrendous question. I see that. So does that refresh your recollection that in January of 2021, your lawyer communicated to the district attorney's office that neither you nor he were the source of the leak? That's what it says, yes. Well, do you remember that happening? Do you remember a recollection of that happening, sir? I do not. So, and do you recall Mr. Davis asking the line prosecutors to report to the top? Objection, Your Honor. It's hearsay. Sustained. So let's talk about, you can take that down, thanks. So let's go 1 month later. So now we are in February 22nd of 2021. Do you remember your lawyer talking to you about something he had been told? Objection, Your Honor. Sustained. Well, do you remember at that time the district attorney's office was frustrated that when they would say something to you or your lawyer about the investigation, you would talk about it on TV? Do you remember that happening? I do not recall that. No. If we can show the witness, the court, and the parties, B55, take a look at that. Take a look at this email. Are you... You're not on this, Mr. Cohen, so you could just take a look. If you could just take a look at the part that's not redacted and see if that refreshes your recollection about a conversation you had at that time. Yes, I see that. So do you understand that? Again, we're talking back a few years. I understand that, but February 22nd of 2021, there was concern that you were going on TV. Objection. Can you please call up, pull this up and make it a little larger, please? Sure, so I can look at it. Can we blow up the portion of that email? Thank you. Can you read back that last question, please? Record read back by the court reporter. Overruled. I will allow it. You can answer. From this document, yes? We can take the document down, please. With the document aside, do you remember in February of 2021, you were going on TV talking about the investigation? I go on TV often, so I'm not sure what the topic was. What was I responding to? I don't know. Would it surprise you to learn that you were on TV talking about the investigation in February of 2021? No, it would not surprise me. Now, do you remember making a promise to your attorney that you would stop talking and stop going on TV? Objection. Sustained. If we can look at B56 for just the witness, the court, and the parties, have you had a chance to review that, Mr. Cohen? Do you want to tell me what you want me to review? You can review just the entire text exchange on that page. And I understand that you are not on it. Just focus on discussing you. It disappeared. Pardon me? It disappeared from my screen. Is it there? It's back. Okay. Can you tell me who these communications are between? And you are not on the communication, but do you see that your lawyer told you? Objection. Let me hear the question. He's reading something that's not in evidence. I'm going to pause right here. This cross-examination is awful. You can't just ask someone to read some random text here. You've got to link it back. Oh, dear. You've told the district attorney's office that you had promised that you were not going to talk anymore? Sustained. Sustained. Mr. Cohen, do you remember, again, we are still talking about February of 2021, do you remember at that time the district attorney's office being frustrated with you that you would not stop talking to the press? Yes, sir. But you continue to talk to the press, as you said a few minutes ago, correct? Yes, I continue to talk to the press. And you continue to talk to the press to this day, correct? About many topics, yes. Including about this case, correct, sir? Sounds correct, yes. I don't want it to sound correct. Is it correct? Yes, it would be correct. Now, I want to talk now. Let's go fast forward 2 years. Okay, so now we're talking about February of 2021. Let's move to February of 2023, okay? So that's a little over a year and 3 months ago, about, correct? Okay? Yes. You were, again, regularly meeting with the district attorney's office about this case, correct? In February of 2023. Yes, sir. And you testified in the grand jury, you said earlier this morning on March 13th of 2023, correct? Yes, sir. Now, prior to your testimony on March 13th, you testified earlier today that you gave 2 of your cell phones to an investigator with the district attorney's office, correct? That's correct. And that investigator's name was Jeremy Rosenberger, correct? Rosenberg, correct? Yes, sir. And he came to where you lived to retrieve your phone on 2 different days. So 2 different phones, 2 phones, 2 different days. Is that correct? That's correct. And then just over a week later, do you recall that you went on CNN and told the news anchor named Don Lemon that you had been contacted by the district attorney's office and they had asked you to provide them with your cell phones and you had done so? Do you remember doing that? Sounds correct. And do you remember the district attorney's office being frustrated and upset that you had done that? No, sir. You don't recall that the district attorney's office was frustrated that you went on TV to talk about the fact that you had turned over your phones? I don't recall them expressing that to me. No. Do you recall saying that you did not tell Mr. Lemon or tell CNN that your phone had been seized, that they already had that information and you just confirmed it, correct? I cannot agree with that. No, sir. So let me ask you this. Are you the one that leaked to CNN that you had given your phones to the district attorney earlier in January of 2023? I don't recall. So you don't recall whether when you talked about it with Mr. Lemon, whether CNN already had that information or whether you gave it to them? You don't recall either way? I don't. So take a look at B57, just again for Mr. Cohen, the court and the parties. And this is a text message with the district attorney's office and your lawyer. Again, you are not in these text messages, sir. Does that refresh your recollection that you said that CNN already had the info on your phone and all you did was confirm? No, sir, I don't recall. If it was leaked to CNN, not by you, who else knew that the phone had been given to the district attorney's office? Objection. Overruled. Or clearly Lanny Davis. It could be others. I don't know. Well, does Mr. Rosenberg know? Yes, Mr. Rosenberg would know. He picked them up, correct? He did. And other members of the district attorney's office necessarily knew, correct, right? Correct. But you don't know as you sit here today. You're not sure whether you leaked that or somebody else leaked that? That's what I stated, yes. And then again, still talking about last year on March 19th of 2023, which, by the way, you testified in the grand jury on March 13th, correct? I believe so, yes. So March 19th, 6 days later, you recall that once again, the district attorney's office was frustrated and upset that you continued to talk on TV, correct? No, sir, I don't recall that either. And you actually promised at that point that you would stop going on TV and you would do no more appearances on TV until after the indictment, correct? Again, I don't recall this. Well, can we take a look at B58 again, just for the witness, the parties in the court? And this, again, sir, you're not in this text. This is the one with the district attorney's office and your lawyer. Does that refresh your recollection that you promised that you would make no more appearances on TV until after the indictment? No, sir. So just so I understand, you testified yesterday about a very specific recollections that you had about some telephone calls, for example, with President Trump in 2016, but you have no recollection of whether last March, so just over a year ago, you promised the district attorney that you would stop going on TV. That's your testimony? What I'm saying to you, sir, is that I don't recall even having this conversation with Lenny Davis about not going on television. I need a tea break, everyone. One moment, please. So you don't recall a year ago making a promise that you would no longer go on TV until after the indictment? Yo, sir. No, sir. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm pausing here because at this moment, Mr. Blanche has taken this so far, he needs to step back from this line of questioning. This isn't getting him anywhere, but he's continuing to go forward and ask this question repeatedly to try to catch Mr. Cohen in a lie. It's not working, but he's still going after it. But you recall very specifically multiple telephone conversations that you had with President Trump in 2016, correct? I recall the conversations with President Trump at the time, yes. Do you recall a telephone call that you had in March before the indictment with you, your lawyer, and the district attorney's office where they emphasized how important it was for you to stop talking to the TV and stop going on TV? No, sir, I don't recall that either because I don't recall ever agreeing not to go on television. So you don't recall the district attorney telling you that you were unwittingly helping President Trump by going on TV? No, sir. Now, you talked a little bit about Mr. Costello earlier today, the attorney that you were speaking with after you were raided by the FBI in June of that year, correct? That's correct. And you remember last year in March, during the grand jury phase of this case, you were called down as a possible rebuttal witness for Mr. Costello, correct? I believe so, yes. Well, do you have any doubt in your mind that you were called down to the district attorney's office on March 20th as a possible rebuttal witness? Yes, sir, I remember. You were? I do, yes. And do you remember going on TV that very night and saying that you didn't need to testify as a rebuttal witness because the DA determined that Costello's testimony lacked any veracity? Do you remember saying that? I do. And then after the indictment, you have been warned repeatedly by the district attorney's office to not talk about this case, correct? Yes. What have they said to you? Please don't talk about the case. That's all they've said? They just call you up and say, please don't talk about the case, that's it? Actually, they contacted my attorney. And when you met with them putting aside the past month or two, going back to last summer, you met with them on multiple occasions, correct? Yes, sir. And when you met with them, do they tell you, not just your attorney, to not talk about the case? They have said it to me, yes. So when they say it to you, not to your attorney, what do they say? Probably better off if you don't speak about it. They say it's probably better off if you don't speak about it? Objection, Your Honor. Overruled. That's how I recall it, yes. So they don't direct you not to speak, they just say it's probably better you don't speak? Well, I do have a First Amendment right. I can speak. I'm not asking you about your First Amendment rights, Mr. Cohen. I'm asking you what these prosecutors say to you about not speaking to the press. And your testimony was that they just say, probably better if you don't speak. They say it in a manner where they're asking me not to speak. And on how many occasions over the past years since the indictment have they said to you directly, not through your lawyer, you directly, do not speak to the press? I don't recall. Well, I won't give you not an exact number. Do you think it's more than 5? I don't think so, no. So fewer than 5 times? Yes. And on all of those 5 times, they said something like, it's probably better you don't talk or don't talk to the press? Correct? Correct. And you have not followed their request or whatever words you want me to use for what they're saying to you? That's correct. I'm responding to comments that I make. And also, I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you a yes or no question. Now, is it fair to say that you've responded during the course of this case? So since the indictment, but also during the investigation, you've gone on TV several dozen times. Is that fair? I don't know about several dozen times, but I've gone on television. Well, is it more than 20? Could be. Well, do you have any doubt in your mind that it's more than 20, sir? No. So when you say could be, you mean yes, it is more than 20. Yes, could be. And you've also recorded hundreds of episodes of the podcast you just talked about earlier. Yes, sir. You do that podcast twice a week, is that right? Each podcast is done twice a week. So that's 4 podcasts a week, correct? And is that all year long or are there breaks? All year long. So that's about how many a month? Is that 15 to 20 a month? Do you always do 2 a week? Correct. So it's fair to say that you've done hundreds of podcast episodes during the investigation and during the charges since this case has been charged, correct? I don't know about hundreds, but yes, the math is the math. Well, we can do the math. Okay. I mean, if there's 16 a month, right? 10 months is 160, right? Then it would be 160. So, and this investigation didn't just start a year ago, did it? No, it did not. So when I say hundreds, it's more than 200, correct? Yes. Now, and of those 200 episodes, would you agree that you talked about President Trump every single one? I would say that he is mentioned in every single one, yes. And in addition to the podcast, which we will talk about in a little bit, you also are active on Twitter and on X. Is that right? That's correct. And you are also active, although maybe more recently on TikTok, correct? Correct. And TikTok, you do nightly live TikToks, correct? Correct. How long is that each night? More than an hour. What's the goal of doing that? Build an audience, to create a community, to really vent because I'm having a difficult time sleeping, so I found an outlet. You are also hoping to make money off of that, correct? It does make money, but it's not significant. You don't spend a significant amount of time on your TikToks encouraging the folks listening to subscribe? Yes. So to subscribe, they have to pay a small fee, correct? $5.99. A month? Yes. A month? A month? Yes. Right. So I'm not suggesting that that's the only reason that you do it, and I accept that you do it as an outlet, but one of the reasons you do it is to make money, correct? Money is made from it, yes. So that wasn't my question. One of the reasons you do it is to make money, yes or no? Yes. And on your TikToks, let me just start with that. When did you start that? 6 weeks ago. So for the 6 weeks that you've been TikToking nightly, out of the 7 nights a week, how many nights do you think you talk about President Trump? Well, I only do them 6 days a week. Okay, fair enough. I would say 6 days a week. And on X, you regularly talk about President Trump, correct? I speak about Mr. Trump, yes, both in response to comments, but also when you retweet and when you post your own, correct? Yes. Now, you've also commented on your political beatdown podcast, so you have a mea culpa and you have a political beatdown, correct? Correct. You've commented on March 19th of 2024, so before the case started, but about 2 months ago, that you were meeting with the government in preparation for your testimony, which started yesterday, correct? Correct. And you also actually displayed a binder. Do you recall doing that? A binder of materials that the district attorney had given you to study before your testimony, correct? I recall that binder. What's in the binder? Publicly available documents that the district attorney's office provided to me. Which publicly available documents? I believe my allocution and other documents regarding this case, my personal case. So your allocution, meaning you're guilty, you had 2 guilty plea allocutions, correct? Correct. So do you mean like your guilty plea allocutions, certain materials in connection with your case? Is that what you're saying? Correct, yes. And they asked you to study that, correct? They gave it to my attorney. I took it from my attorney to bring home to read. And you read it, correct? It was a while ago, yes. Well, you were talking about it on your podcast, March 19th. So you say a while ago, you say within the past couple of months? Correct. You've also talked about extensively on mea culpa, your desire to see President Trump gets convicted in this case, correct? Sounds like something I'd say. Well, sir, I'm not asking if it sounds like something you would say. I'm saying, have you regularly commented on your podcast that you want President Trump to be convicted in this case? Yes, probably. Do you have any doubt? No. So why did you just answer yes, probably? Because I don't specifically know if I use those words, but yes, I would like to see that. And so, yes, you want to see President Trump get convicted from this case, correct? I would like to see accountability. It's not for me. It's for the jury in this court. I didn't ask you what you wanted to see or not see about accountability. I said, do you want to see President Trump convicted in this case? That's what we just said. You are asking me if I want to see. I'm just asking you to say yes or no. Do you want President Trump to get convicted in this case? Sure. Now, you actually, and the prosecutor brought this up a little bit before lunch today. You sell a t-shirt on your website, Mea Culpa, which depicts President Trump in an orange jumpsuit behind bars, correct? Yes, sir. Can we put up, just for the witness in the court and the parties, B151? So this is a couple of pages. It's from your website. If we scroll to the next page, I believe that's the last page. So see that if somebody logs onto your website for your podcast, that's what you see, correct? For the merchandise pages, correct? It's actually under the Midas Touch Network. And yes, if you go into the section that says Mea Culpa, this shirt is available for sale. Fair enough. So under the company that runs your podcast, there's a Mea Culpa, which is your podcast, correct? Yes, sir. Merchandise store, and that's what appears. That's one item. That's what? That's one item. Well, if we go to the second page, if we could, and then the third, and then the last page, those are other items there, correct? Some of them, yes. There are others beyond this. I thought there were more items. Your Honor, we offer B151. Any objection? No objection, Your Honor. HB 51 is admitted into evidence. So this is a $32 shirt on your website, and it has a picture of President Trump in an orange jumpsuit behind bars, correct? That's what the picture shows, yes. And if we go to the fourth page, so you see something for sale called Convict 45. I see that. And that's about a reference to 45. President Trump is our 45th president, correct? Correct. And if you see, can we blow it up, the coffee mug as well, that says send him to the big house, not the White House, correct? That's what it says. And that's also a reference to President Trump, correct? Correct. So when you testified earlier today that you only sell one thing in your merchandise that has to do with Donald Trump, that's not true, correct? Objection. Sustained. And by the way, let's go back to that first page. You actually, if you look at that, the t-shirt, you actually wore the t-shirt during your last week during your TikTok, didn't you, on Wednesday night? I did. And you were offering, encouraging people to go buy it, correct? Yes, it's part of the merch store. So I want to talk for a few minutes. You talked about this a little bit on direct, about your views on President Trump prior to, I guess, August of 2018. Is that right? Witnesses indicating. Well, you tell me, when did you change your views about President Trump from the views you had for your entire life to the views that you have now? It would be August of 2018. Well, I will take back saying August. I don't want to put words in your mouth. When was it that you changed your view about President Trump from what it was now prior to what it had been your entire life, which is different than it is now? It was at the time that I went on George Stephanopoulos. And was that around the summertime, July, August of 2018? Correct. But prior to that, and you said this on direct, so I'm not saying I don't think anything controversial, but you enjoyed working for President Trump, correct? Very much so. And you first met President Trump and his family in 2006, is that right? Yes. And that was during a board dispute that you had going on at one of President Trump's buildings, correct? Yes, sir. And you helped resolve that? Yes, sir. And you were working with one of President Trump's sons, Donald Trump Jr., on that, is that right? Amongst other people, yes. Now, there's construction going on at one of President Trump's apartments that you purchased, is that right? Yes. And you paid close to $5 million for that apartment, correct? That's correct. And that apartment was your primary residence for many years, correct? Yes, it is. Still is? Yes, sir. And you still live in a building with Trump's name on it, correct? I do. Now, you've already invested in other Trump properties, correct? Yes, sir. You had a property in Trump World Tower. Yes, sir. And you rented that out to somebody for $15,000 a month, correct? Yes, sir, to an embassy. That was back in 2006 we're talking about. Sure. A lot of your family members also bought properties in the Trump buildings, correct? My in-laws and my parents. So your parents and your in-laws both bought Trump properties, correct? Yes, sir. Was that even earlier, or was that earlier, like 2001? The year 2000, we bought as a block. Now, talking about that dispute that you first helped President Trump and his family resolve, the board was trying to remove the Trump name from the building, correct? Yes, sir. There were lawyers involved, including you eventually, correct? Yes, sir. That's when you were a partner at a law firm in the city. You talked about that earlier. Philip Neiser? Yes, sir. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your practice at the time was international banking, asset-based lending, high net worth client asset protection, general corporate commercial real estate, and letter of credit transactions. Is that right? Yes, sir. And would you say you were more in litigation or corporate? More corporate. But aside from your work as a practicing lawyer at Philip Neiser, you made a lot of money in the taxi medallions business, correct? Correct. You made millions of dollars. Fair? Yes. And you viewed yourself at the time, so again, talking about the early 2000s, a bit of a deal maker. Yes, sir. So you used your skills as a lawyer, a deal maker, your work in the business to help Trump organization before you worked with them, correct? I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Well, my point is that you had success helping the Trump organization before you started working for them, which is presumably why they offered you a job, correct? Oh, I don't know if that's the reason. Well, you said yesterday that you knew from your first work on that President Trump was happy with your work, correct? He was happy with the result, yes. And after that first result, you started working on other legal matters for President Trump, correct? I was asked to intercede in other matters as well, yes. And at some point, President Trump offered you a job, correct? Correct. And he offered you a job right then and there. You accepted. You never even returned to Phillips Nizer, correct? That's correct. So you were President Trump's personal attorney when you went to work for the Trump organization, correct? That's correct. You didn't answer to the general counsel at the time, did you? No, sir. You never answered to anybody in the legal department or anybody else at the Trump organization. You only answered to President Trump? Correct. But your job wasn't just representing President Trump, right? You also represented his family at times? I have, yes. Well, I want to stay focused on the time when you started until 2017. So those 9.5 years that you were there, you represented the family on occasion? Yes. That includes which members of President Trump's family? Melania, Don Jr. I don't believe I ever represented Eric, and I can't recall if I represented Ivanka. Putting aside that you would also help some of the kids with various work, maybe not legal work and filing lawsuits, but for example, reaching out to the media on behalf of President Trump's children, correct? Yes, sir. And you were paid, just focusing now on 2011 to 2016, you made about $375,000 a year in base salary, right? That's correct. With the exception of 2016, your bonus for those years, 2011 and 2015, was $150,000 a year, right? Correct. That's what you would get in a check around the holiday season, around Christmas time, correct? Correct. Now, fair to say that you admired President Trump while you were working for him? Yes, sir. You admired his financial success, his high profile, his tenacity, very much so, yes. You read Art of the Deal, I believe, twice, is that correct? That's correct. And your view that as a masterpiece, correct? I viewed it as an excellent book, yes. Well, you actually called it a masterpiece, correct? Yes, masterpiece. And you saw a little bit of yourself in President Trump, correct? Correct. Ambitious, hardworking, deal maker, never afraid, correct? Innovative, yes. And you were actually obsessed with President Trump, weren't you? I don't know if I would characterize the word obsessed. I admired him tremendously. Well, you have characterized it as you being obsessed, haven't you? I can't recall using that word, but I wouldn't say that would be wrong, but I don't recall using that word. Sorry, I interrupted you. In Disloyal, you describe your feelings for President Trump as being obsessed with President Trump, with Donald J. Trump, correct? Correct. And we talked a lot about when you were working for him, but your obsession you admired him even before you started working for him, correct? That's correct. And you spoke publicly on many occasions about your positive feelings for President Trump, correct? Yes, sir. You've said, just for some examples, in 2015, you publicly said he was a good man. Yes. Also in 2015, this is around the time he announced he was running for president, you said that he's a man who cares deeply about this country, right? I said that he's a man who tells it straight. Yes, sir. Now, you also said, again, I'm still in 2015, that in your views, President Trump speaks from the heart. I've said that. And that all he wants to do is make this country great again. You said that? Sounds right, yes. And at the time, you weren't lying, right? At the time, I was knee-deep into the cult of Donald Trump, yes. So let me ask the question again. At the time, you weren't lying, right? I was not lying, no, that's how I felt. You've said about, for example, about President Trump's memory that it's fantastic and that you've never come into a situation where he said something that's not accurate, correct? I recall saying that. This is in 2015. Just so I understand, you're not testifying that when you said that, you were lying, right? Correct. So in 2015, when you said those things that I just went through, you were telling the truth? That's how I felt. You were telling the truth, correct? That's how I felt. Well, I was expressing my feelings, so yes, it would be the truth. You also testified a little bit on direct, and now we're getting into 2016 that you served as a surrogate to the campaign, correct? Correct. And one of the things that you did in September of 2016 is you delivered remarks in Cleveland, Ohio about President Trump, right? I did, yes. Can you tell us about, so were you one of many speakers that day? I was one of several, yes. Now, when you were speaking, President Trump was there? Yes, sir. And did President Trump also speak as well? I believe so, yes. And you remember telling how large was the crowd? How large was the crowd? What was the venue? The venue was the New Spirit Revival Church. It was run by my co-creator of the National Diversity Coalition, Pastor Doral Scott, and it was a good 100 people there. During your speech, you described President Trump as generous. Do you remember that? I did. Compassionate, principled, empathetic. Do you remember saying all of that? Correct. Kind, humble, genuine. Correct? Yes, sir. The same questions I asked you before when you said that back in September of 2016, you were telling the truth. Again, that's how I felt. So yes, it would be the truth. Now, moving a little bit forward to 2017, do you recall a Vanity Fair profile that was done about you in 2017 September? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry, do you recall a Vanity Fair profile that was done in September of 2017? I do. And do you remember saying, and that was an article that you participated in, right? Written by Emily Jane Fox. And you said that you were the guy that stops the leaks, talking about you were as it relates to who you were as it relates to President Trump, correct? Correct. And you said you were the guy who protects the president and the family, right? I believe so. Excuse me? I believe so, yes. And you also said at that point that you would take a bullet for the president. I need a tea break, everyone. One moment, please. You also talked about that, and at the time, and again, this is September 2017, you said towards the end of the campaign that you were offered book deals, correct? I was offered a book deal, yes. So you were offered, I believe you said you were offered a $10 million to write a tell-all book. Is that right? I believe so, yes. And you said that what you said in that article is that your counteroffer was, how about $100 million, correct? Correct. According to the article at the time, there was no number that worked for you, right? That's correct. You were just pushing them to see how high they would go in a book offer, right? No, that's not true. No. No. I was trying to fight with you there. Are you just going back at them and just saying there's no number in the world that you would agree to write a book about President Trump? Correct. And again, when you said that, that was true. You had no intention of writing a book. I had no intention of writing a book. At that time in 2017, at that time. And you also said not only about President Trump, but that there was no money in the world that could cause you to write about his family, correct? Sounds correct, yes. You said there's no money in the world that could get you to disclose anything about the family, right? Okay. You described them at the time in 2017, talking about the family as a surrogate family of yours, correct? Correct. Now we're mid-2017 right now, so September of 2017. And during that time, so that's the first year that the President Trump was in office when you were his personal counsel, correct? Correct. You were not spending as much time with him then that you had spent with him in the prior 9.5 years, right? Correct. So you went from seeing him almost daily, except for when he was campaigning, to not seeing him nearly as much when he was in the White House, correct? Oh, that's correct. For example, you told Hope Hicks in June of 2017 that you missed him and that you missed him being around the folks that you had worked with for years and years, correct? Yes, I did. I had a great relationship with my colleagues, and I did say that I missed President Trump. In fact, he said the same thing at a rally. Well, I shouldn't say a rally, it was a fundraiser in Washington, D.C. Now, you, at some point, because of this investigation, you talked about on direct that there was an ongoing investigation and that there was some separation placed between you and President Trump, right? Yes, there was a separation. And you spoke about that. You spoke about the fact that it was frustrating to you that you weren't able to communicate as often with President Trump or the kids, correct? Objection. Overruled. I'm sorry, repeat that. Of course. So now talking about 2017, you publicly spoke about the fact that it was frustrating to you, or you were disappointed that you weren't able to spend as much time with President Trump's children or President Trump because of the investigation. I'm sorry, where was that said? So let me ask it in a different way. In the fall of 2017, okay, so in September of 2017, there was an ongoing investigation. And one of the consequences of that was you were told you had to stay away and you shouldn't communicate directly with President Trump or his family, correct? I was advised that I could not speak to President Trump, but not to the family. Well, you don't remember saying to Emily Fox in the reporting that that's the part that's most disappointing, meaning not being able to see the president. I haven't spoken to any of the kids. Correct. Not that I couldn't see the kids, we just didn't. Well, you didn't speak with the kids? Correct. You then testified in Congress on October 24th of that year, correct? Correct. And this was a testimony that you talked about on direct where you lied. That's the 2017? Yes, sorry. So October 24th, 2017. So let's pause. Whenever a witness is correcting the attorney to correct the date on when he lied, that's also not a good sign for that attorney. Yes, sir. Did you lie? You identified the areas that you pled guilty to lying about, right? Involving the Russian project, correct? Correct. Did you lie in other areas of your testimony or only that area of your testimony? I believe that's part. So, for example, you testified in front of Congress on that day that you were very proud to have served Donald Trump for all those years and that you would continue to support him. That wasn't a lie. That was true. That was true. Then we'll come back to this in a little bit. In 2018, in April, the FBI raided your home office, safe deposit box in the hotel room you were staying in, correct? That's correct. After that time, you had one conversation on the phone shortly thereafter with President Trump, correct? Yes, the day after. Now, a few weeks later, so April 26th of the same year of 2018, do you recall saying on the phone that you really missed the boss? You said, "Boss, I miss you so much. I wish I was down there with you. It's really hard for me to not be there." Do you remember that? I don't recall that. If we can show you and see if we can refresh your memory, if we can look at B66, it's an article. Take a look at that and see if that refreshes your recollection. Does that article refresh your recollection that you said that? No. What it says is, according to this person, I don't know who the person is, and I don't recall specifically saying that. Fair enough. Now, at some point, and around August of that year, so August of 2018, you decided that you were going to meet with the special counsel's office and tell them what you knew, correct? Cooperate? I asked to cooperate, yes. Well, you were asked to cooperate, but at some point you decided that you would cooperate, correct? Yes, sir. And you don't remember exactly when it was that you decided to cooperate? I don't remember the specific date, no. Was it, so you first met with special counsel with the Mueller special counsel on August 7th of 2018, correct? Correct. Had you decided at that point that you were going to cooperate? I don't believe so. So in your mind, when you met with them, what were you thinking? Still to protect Mr. Trump, to provide answers that might have been deceptive. And when you met with him that first time, you had lawyers with you, right? I did. You had 3 lawyers with you? I believe so. And there were FBI agents? I don't recall who was in the room. There were a lot of people in the room. Understood. Let's take a look at A65. If we could blow that first paragraph up. There's some redactions, Mr. Cohen. See if it refreshes your recollection about whether there was an FBI agent there. Yes. And there were 3 lawyers from the special counsel's office there, correct? Correct. There was an intelligence analyst and a forensics analyst there as well, correct? That's correct. Now, you told at the first meeting, you gave a reason why you were going to meet with them, right? I'm certain I did. Well, you said, did you not, that your life had been turned upside down since the release of the Steele dossier, right? Yes. And you said to them that there was no truth to the allegations in that dossier, correct? That is correct. And that you've never been to Prague. I have never been to Prague. That's one of the accusations made against you. Not true? That's not true. You told them that you never paid the Russians to hack anything. That's correct. That's true, you never did? Never did. You told them that by speaking with them, so by speaking with the special counsel's office that day in August, that was a way for your voice to be heard, right? Correct. And you wanted your voice to be part of the report when it was ultimately issued, right? I wanted my voice to be reflected that the Steele dossier, according to me, as an example, was inaccurate. And they told you at the meeting, the first meeting I assume, you have to tell the truth? They did. And they told you that lying to a federal agent was a federal crime? I'm certain they did. But you didn't have any doubt in your mind at the time that lying to them was a crime, did you? Correct. And they asked you about all kinds of background information about President Trump, about the Trump organization, about the campaign, about the inaugural ball, correct? They asked me a lot of information, yes. Now, they also asked you about the Trump Moscow project, and you lied to them, right? Yes, the information I gave was not accurate. So is not accurate information a lie? Sure. It's not. Is it a lie? It wasn't accurate, yes. So was it a lie? I don't know if I would characterize it as a lie. It was inaccurate. All right, so this is one point here for the defense here, where the witness is unable to say the word lie. So in your mind, if something is inaccurate, but it's not a lie, how are you distinguishing that in your head? It wasn't truthful, yes. You want to call it a lie? I'll call it a lie. It's inaccurate. I'm asking you to testify. I believe they're the same thing. Pardon? I believe they're the same thing. I believe the information I gave to them was inaccurate. But you're not testifying today that information was a lie? Sure, I'll say it's a lie. Well, I'll say it's a lie. I'm just asking questions, Mr. Cohen. No problem. And I'm trying to give you the answer. Okay, fair enough. So when you testified inaccurately or didn't testify truthfully or lied, whichever word you want to use, about the Moscow project, okay, that was one of many things you talked about that day, right? I believe so, yes. Do you recall lying about anything else, or were you only lying about that, or being inaccurate, whatever word? I don't know. I'd have to refresh my memory to see what the document is, but I specifically recall the number of times I claimed to have spoken to Mr. Trump, which I was doing for his benefit and, in essence, at his direction. But ultimately, what the special counsel made you plead guilty to your lies to Congress, right? Had to do with only the Moscow project, correct? That's correct. And you never had to plead guilty to a false statements charge from when you lied in this meeting on August 7th, did you? No, sir. Now, you were also asked on that date of August 7th of 2018 about the Access Hollywood videotape and audio tape, weren't you? I believe so. And you testified that you told them on August 7th that you were in London, right? I was. You were visiting your daughter? Yes, sir. And that you were at dinner at a place called Lulu's? That's correct. Then you told them, much like you testified yesterday, that after you received the call, you made a bunch of phone calls to folks in the media, correct? Correct. But you told them on August 7th of 2018 that you didn't recall speaking with President Trump about the tape, correct? I don't recall that. Well, let's put up B65. If you can take a look at that section that talks about the Access Hollywood tape and see if it refreshes your recollection. Sir, it states, sir, you can't read from the document. Okay, sorry. It's against the rules. Your question to me or your statement is inaccurate. Why is it inaccurate without looking at the document if your memory is refreshed? Yes, it was. Cohen might have spoken to Trump about it. That's what it says. Well, if you look before that, right? If you look before that, it says you don't recall, but you might have, right? Yes, sir. So when you testified, so when you met with special counsel on August 7th of 2018, you told them that you didn't recall, that you might have spoken with President Trump, but you testified yesterday, right, that you had a specific recollection of speaking with President Trump about the Access Hollywood tape, right? You testified about that yesterday. Objection as to form, sustained. So when you met with special counsel on August 7th of 2018, that was about 2 years after the Access Hollywood tape had been released, correct? Correct. And when you testified yesterday, many years later, correct? Correct. And when you testified yesterday, you testified that you had specific recollections about speaking with President Trump that day, right? Correct. You said that you remember a phone call with Hope Hicks that President Trump was on. I said that, yes. And that you remember a separate phone call with President Trump as well, right? I believe so, yes. Well, do you have any doubt that you said that yesterday? No. But you didn't have that clear of a recollection when you met with the special counsel August 7th, did you? It was being deceptive, or I might have, so I left the door open because I didn't want, again, to have his name in it because I was trying to be protective. So at that point, if you did say that, you couldn't recall. Or you might have, as opposed to remembering specifics like you did yesterday, it would have been because you were still being deceptive. Is that your testimony? I was trying to be loyal to President Trump. You were still being loyal to President Trump at the time? Yes, sir. But you don't remember anything else in that meeting with the special counsel on August 7th. That wasn't truthful, except for the Trump Moscow project. Is that correct? Objection. Sustained. So we'll talk a little bit about this in a little bit more. You testified earlier today that you had 2 separate guilty pleas in the Southern District of New York. Correct? Correct. One August 21st of 2018. Yes, sir. And then August 29th of 2018. Yes, sir. November 29th was when you pled guilty to lying to Congress. Is that right? That's right. The August 21st was the guilty plea in front of Judge Pauley with all of the other conduct you talked about earlier today, correct? Correct. After November 29th of 2018, you were sentenced December 12th of 2018, correct? That's correct. Then you testified in front of a couple of different congressional committees in between your sentencing and the time that you surrendered to serve your sentence, correct? Correct. Now, by that time you testified in February of 2019, you had changed your views about President Trump, correct? Correct. You testified on February 27th completely differently from your prior public statements about President Trump, correct? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? So you had been talking for years and years about your views of President Trump. You testified in Congress that you had committed to work with him and continue to do so. But once you testified February of 2019, you changed all of that. And now you said that President Trump was a con man and that you were ashamed, correct? I said that, yes. Now, you were initially supposed to surrender to serve your sentence March 6th of 2019, correct? Correct. And your lawyers asked the judge for more time to surrender. So from March 6th until May, right? I just had surgery, yes. So it's because you were recovering from a medical issue, right? Correct. And because you were going to testify in front of the committee we just talked about as well, right? No, sir. It was because I had surgery. It wasn't because you were going to testify in front of the committee as well? No. So I did testify before the committee, but that wasn't the reason. The reason I was given 60 days is because I had a shoulder surgery. Now, you prior to going into prison in May, you had never met with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, right? That's correct. The first time you met with members of the District Attorney's Office was while you were in Otisville in prison, right? Correct. And you had been in Otisville since early May of 2019, right? May 6th. And just so the jury knows, Otisville, that's 90 miles away from here, give or take. Give or take. About an hour and a half from New York City, approximately. And you were very much looking in the fall of 2019 for a way to get your sentence reduced, correct? Yes, sir. And you had visitors who came to see you. Yes. Do you know someone named Anthony Scaramucci? I do. Did he come to visit you in October of 2019? He came to visit. I don't know exactly when. And he commented and said that you were trying to figure out a way to get out of prison early, right? No response. You talked to him about that, right? Sounds correct. And between August 2019 and October of 2019, you met in person with the prosecutors from the district attorney's office on 3 occasions. Is that right? In Otisville? In Otisville. Yes, sir. August 27th sound right? Nods yes. September 19th. Sounds correct. And then in October 30th, right? Also correct. And prior to you meeting with them, you understood from talking to your lawyers, and I don't want to hear what they said to you, but you understood that your lawyers had communications with the district attorney's office. Objection sustained. Is this a great time to take a break? Yes, sir. All right, jurors, I'll see you in 15 minutes. And that concludes this morning's reading, the transcripts. So let me go ahead and turn comments on, and we can do a brief Q&A, everyone. Let's see, here we go, comments and turning those on. Hello, welcome everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining me today, this morning. Hello, thank you, you're welcome. Nice read, oh, thank you so much, I appreciate that. I had to kind of change my time, but I appreciate you all joining me. Hello, good morning, yes, hello. And this is my third Cohen reading, and I will have part 1 up today. So that should be, it's running right now, so it should be up soon. That was really helpful. Oh yeah, I think so. I think it's very helpful. And I paused here because of the time, but the next part, when Cohen goes into his time in prison and the charges, I think is also very helpful as well. So thanks for taking the time. Oh, my pleasure, Rose. My pleasure. I wish I had more time, but unfortunately my schedule's a bit. Hello, everyone. Hello, Suze. Hello. My schedule's a bit tight, so with that, I was only able to come in this morning today. So Blanche getting the merch store part wrong is wild. I know, he loses credibility. Oh, I know. I know. Well, doesn't it make you curious? Just like when Stormy mentioned she had a merch store, I was like, oh, let's go look at the merch what she's selling. I want a candle. When are you coming back? Great question. I'm not completely sure. I cannot come back tonight. It's looking like it'll probably be tomorrow morning again. I will do a post, though, letting everyone know. Have a week to catch up. Exactly, VC. Hello, VC. Good to see you. Yes, I will. I am planning to try to come on as much as I can, although the time of when I'm coming on will need to change. I have some things that have changed in my own schedule, so the evening times have come a bit crunched for me due to that. So you think Cohen's store will get a boost? I think so. Well, and I guess he's through Midas Touch. So, Midas Touch has a lot of merch in there. So I think it's very interesting. Very interesting. I do want to continue the next live that I do, which I hope will be tomorrow. Right. It was Midas Touch. Exactly. It's like a sub store. It's a floor of the Midas Touch store. The next time I do come on, I do plan to continue with Michael Cohen's cross-examination. So my hope is to get through another pretty big chunk of his cross in the transcripts so that we can get everything set up to go through when the state rests their case. So Right. Advertising. Oh, I know. It seems like it. It seems like he was. Oh, puzzle piece, everyone. Hold on. Sorry. Here we go. There we go. Am I here? Oh, I'm verified. Oh, phew. What'd you think of the cross? I thought the cross was awful, everyone. Now, I think it's it's a lot easier for us to what do they call it? Armchair quarterback or Sunday quarterbacking or armchair psychology? I don't know. It's easier to sit from the sidelines and pick it apart. But, that's one of the pieces that I have enjoyed teaching over the years has been trial advocacy, which is going through direct examinations and cross-examinations and teaching students techniques and how to do a direct and how to do a cross and how where objections are appropriate. And this, I would have to say, is this would be a lower level, probably maybe a C plus level cross examination so far. Monday morning quarterback. Thanks, James. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Oh my goodness. Yes, so this would be a C plus. This what I would say to this student is you need to be more specific with your questions. You need to stick to your outline more carefully. Don't stray. You're going way off on a tangent too many times. That's how I would that's how I would grade this cross so far. Now we're only into, like a couple of hours. We're just at the morning break or the afternoon break. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still trying to figure out how some say Cohen's trying to throw his testimony. Yeah, I agree. I think Cohen is being extremely carefully, and his answers, honestly, to me, they are clearly he is an attorney, and you can tell because he's being very careful with what he's saying. Every single word means something to him. So he's being extremely careful. And I have no doubt the jury is picking up on that. Like, it's not coming across as like with Stormy when she just was asked the question, answer the question. But with Cohen, it's like he's giving lawyer answers, which is okay. I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just very clear that he's just not a lay person on the stand testifying. It's clear he is being careful about what he's saying. And I think that will have some influence. Also knows he's got credibility issues, so being extra careful. Could be. I'm not sure. I didn't really get the feeling that credibility was an issue for him because he was so genuine in owning up to all the mistakes he was making. In fact, even correcting Blanche on the dates of the hearing that he lied during. I mean, that's like, wow. That blows his credibility. That's amazing for someone to be able to do that. Like, no, I lied on the 27th, not the 29th. You got that wrong. That really helps him to come across as like, yeah, I lied. I made mistakes. So it really will come down to what you think about that. Is it okay to come back? Can you come back from lying? And, ultimately we all knew that that's what his credibility was going to be about. Can he come back from it? Admitted the theft shows that he's not afraid to be honest. Well, it seems like it. I missed the live. When will we be able to put the video? Very, very soon. So I will have part 1 of Cohen's. I've got 3 parts now. This is the 3rd Cohen transcript. I've got part 1 that will be up today, part 2 tomorrow, part 3 after that. So yes, I have finished for the day today. I've had to kind of move some things around. So my afternoons have become quite packed. So I'm not sure how my evenings are going to shake down. I should be able to come on each day, but it will need to be in the mornings, everyone. And sorry about that scheduling change, but life just kind of keeps on going. So I have some things going on. So I'm hoping to go live again tomorrow. It'll probably be about this time again. So kind of this morning break, pre-lunch time period will probably be the best time for me. Again, and it will probably be for the next week. So I've got about a week of some appointments going on. So yes, I do have a life, such that it is. But I do have some things going on. So, it's end of semester, starting a new semester. There's stuff going on. When is this trial expected to end? So the tube of you is the same as my name here on TikTok. So it looks like this morning defense finished. Now, the state's next move is to pull any rebuttal witnesses. And so if they've got rebuttal, they can pull those in. And then we've got, after that, once the rebuttal's done, then we've got closing arguments, which we call them closing arguments. Some people are calling them summations, closing arguments, same thing. We've also got jury instructions that need to be discussed as well. So there's still a few days left of some housekeeping work and closing statements that need to be done. So I would say the jury could get this in for deliberation by the end of next week. I would say that would be very possible. Very possible. Yes, they have healed. They have. Yikes. I'm definitely being more careful now with my hands. I hadn't really been super careful before, but I think everyone around me is like, watch out for the hands, move your hands. So yes, everyone is I've got a lot of support. Oh my gosh. Yes, fast healer. And I got a lot of really good suggestions on different things to use, and just really, trying to be extra careful. So yes, absolutely. Well, you are very welcome, everyone. You're very welcome. So we do have for today. Now, I've been reading that we are done with court for today, and we're going to be dark at this point. Got to get some hand insurance. Oh, I know. I need to do something about that. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've had lots of gloves thrown at me, so I've got lots of gloves. That's really funny. But yes, so we've gone dark for today. We should be back. Yes, so actually it was a combination. There was I did do a lot of vitamins. I did lots of oils and the antibiotic creams. So that was pretty good. And then I just kept them really covered. But yeah, I think it's from the oils. I used a lot of different kinds of oils. Brief opinion of Costello as a witness. Costello should never have been called, and if any good attorney knows that, and I don't think it was an attorney's call to call him. I think that's a clear indication that Mr. Trump somehow convinced his squad to pull him up on the stand, but that was a mess. There's no benefit that I could see at all from Costello testifying. No benefit to the defense at all, in my opinion, and maybe that information will come out later, but. I mean, what could he even testify to? He was just, he was pretty awful. He was awful. He, upset the judge, and the judge is like, the leader. He's the, Gandalf leading the hobbits, leading the jury through. Wait, I'm getting too geeky, everyone. So everyone, the jury's going to love the judge, all right? The jury loves the judge. So don't pick on the judge. They're going to be mad at you. Were they trying to go Judge Merchan into making a reversible error? I don't think so. I don't think so because, there's no way to really know. I think everything that they look at is a reversible error in their opinion. So I think they're kind of immune to it. And I think that's another part. I think their kind of bad behavior and flouting any kind of authority is just, they've become numb to it. I think they had to go back for jury instructions at 2:30. Okay, great. Thank you, Tay. I appreciate that. And that makes sense. Because our jury instructions, you want to have your jury instructions put together. It's helpful to have that put together. They've already been talking about a little bit, but to have them kind of hammered out before you go in to do your closing statements or your summation, whatever you want to call it. So, yes, thank you, Navy Vet. I appreciate that so much. So I think that would be very helpful. Yeah, well, I mean, I will, and maybe it's because I've done too many trials. I will never take points away from a defendant for not testifying. And I understand, and it's okay if you want to, but for me, I will never put any kind of inference into the defendant not testifying in a criminal case, because it truly is part of the game, and it's all strategy. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't work, but whatever the defendant chooses to do, for me, I've not ever been able to say, well, they're not testifying because they're guilty. Like that, it doesn't matter if you're guilty or not guilty. Your testimony is strategic, so it's all about strategery. How do you feel about how the case went for or against Trump? It's always hard to tell. I think that, we didn't have any like huge moments of like, wow, that was rough, or that went terribly. I think this case was a set it up, knock it down case. Now, with a jury, again, everyone, we've got 50-50 shot. We just don't know. But the state put their evidence out. I don't know how they could have done it better. The only thing I would have added would have been Wesselberg. I probably would have put Dylan Howard on, who was the assistant that had those calls. I probably would have added him, but there must be a reason why he wasn't included. Wesselberg probably, but they've got their own reason for not including him. The bodyguard, although again, they're probably trying to set it up and knock it down. They knew that the bodyguard would add probably another day of testimony. So, I may have added a couple of witnesses myself, but other than that, I don't see what more the state could have done. Set it up and knock it down, yeah. So I don't know what else they could have done at this point. Sometimes you can take a look, like at this cross-examination, I've got a lot of thoughts, and I'll be sharing the thoughts as we get through this cross. And also on what the defense could have pulled in as witnesses. But, as far as the state goes, I don't see anything else they could have done. He can't travel. He's in Australia. Okay, well, then that makes sense because it seems like he would be a key element to this. So there must have been something that kept him from not coming. Oh, thank you for that, Tay. I appreciate that. I didn't know. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Set it up and knock it down. Well, right. I mean, there's just not a lot of, pizzazz. There's not a lot of all that jazz involved in this particular kind of a case because in the end, it's a fraud case and, it's not that exciting, but set up and knock it down on a coffee cup and then give it to a cat, right? But, I think they did a great job. I think there was a few saucy moments and they took care of it. So, immobile because of physical injury. Okay, great. Why the bodyguard? I think it's a trust issue, Collins. I think he has a trust issue and he relies very heavily on his bodyguards or valets or whatever it is you want to call them, like his, people close to him. I think that he needs that in order to feel comfortable. He could have taken the stand to refute the alleged lies. I wouldn't, Corey. Honestly, I wouldn't. And I've said this before. I have never seen a situation where testifying on your own behalf has ever worked out, except for in a self-defense case. And those are rare. And those are very rare. It never works out. It just never works out. You think it's going to work out. You're like, oh, the jury will believe me. They'll believe me. No, and why take the chance? Why take the chance that they're going to come for you on cross-examination, screw up your words, doesn't matter what you said. They're there just to tangle you up, not to get to the truth. It's going to mess it up. It's hard. It would be a really difficult situation. In my professional view, I always say it is never a good idea. It never turns out the way you think it can turn out. There are rare exceptions, but yep. Yeah, too risky for Trump. Yeah, exactly. Way too, and for any defendant, honestly, it is way too risky. And again, think about it. We've got some of the most famous people that testified on their own behalf, and it did not go well for them, right? Like, why didn't OJ testify, right? Why didn't he testify on his own behalf? I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Told on himself by mistake. Exactly, Octavia, exactly. So it's every prosecutor's dream for the defendant to come and take a stand. And it's your right. It is your legal right. This is not legal advice, everyone, all right? This is just based off of my personal experience in my jurisdiction, in the criminal cases that I have worked, and through my study. I have just not seen a case where, other than self-defense, where we've got a first offender issue, first aggressor issue, but I've just not seen it. I've just not seen where it has been helpful. And it's because it's about trial technique. It's all about strategy, everyone. It's not just, let's just talk about what really happened here. It's not as simple as that. There are just many, many different levels to taking a case to trial. Alex Murdaugh testimony hurt him. Yes, it did. I think, didn't Jodi Arias testify too on her own behalf? What do you think the results will be? No way to know. No way to know, everyone. I will be just, biting my nails just like everyone else. No way to know. It only works on TV. Yes, I agree. Affirmative defense, it might help, but it's easy to get started. Exactly right. And in those affirmative defenses, that's the only time where I have seen it to be beneficial. She did, it was terrible. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and if you just take a look at it, and you may think, and the general consensus is, well, if you've got nothing to hide, then, go and testify. But again, it's strategic. It's not quite as plain as that would be. Would result in another charge. Could be. You can't handle you can't handle the truth. Exactly. If Jack Nicholson can't get off the stand without getting arrested, what hope do the rest of us have, right? I know we're going to be on the edge of our seat. I know. I know I will be, for sure. I will be absolutely. I have no idea how it's going to go. Right, exactly. Seriously, if Jack Nicholson can't do it, come on. There's no hope for us. Did the video get admitted from yesterday? No, I don't know. I don't know yet. Do you think the long weekend could get too long for the jury to slip? No, I think the jury needs a break. And they need to come back. I think yesterday they were so fatigued from this whole situation that even just the brief break that they had from last week wasn't enough. I think that this long break will be great, actually, for the jury. How will appeals go? Constantly. Did defense rest today? That's what I heard. A portion of the video did. Okay. Interesting. I heard that only that a photo actually was put in, but I've got to go double check. I don't know exactly. Did Trump order the code red? Do you think it would have been better for Cohen to testify first? No, Iron Pit. I'm glad you asked me that. I think, as I've said before, you start with your strongest and you end with your strongest witness. And, the first person needs to set the stage. And I think David Pecker was the perfect choice. And I think finishing with Cohen was a great choice as well. Some people thought, I don't know that you want to end on Cohen, but I don't know who would have been better. And so sometimes for me, it's a process of elimination of, maybe they could have had, maybe Cohen wasn't the greatest choice, but then the question is, who else would have done it? So I think Cohen was the best that they had. That C-SPAN was still, okay. Excellent. Thank you, VC, for clearing that up. I appreciate that. What about the guy that tried to stand on the judge? Yeah, Costello. We'll see what happens. He finished testifying this morning, so yikes. Just the still of the video. Okay, I got you now. Okay, did Cohen tie up the loose ends? I think so. I think the problem was that Blanche kept trying to pull Cohen's testimony apart, and I think he was a bit too academic about it. There's a difference between going academically through a cross-examination versus when you're actually in the field and you're in the trenches and getting down and dirty. And you only know this when you've done so many cross-examinations and you've got that jury staring at you and you're losing them. And you have to be able to pull yourself out of that moment in that cross and check yourself and say, I've got to move on. Because if the judge doesn't move you on and you're not getting objected to, you could keep going on and on and on forever. And your jury's like 5 miles behind you. So you really have to, and that only comes from experience. That only comes from muscle memory of being able to get yourself out of that situation. Herder, help. I didn't see a defense. That was put on outside of the jury. No, I don't think so. I don't know how, based off of the structure of the room. If he's in a yes, Kristen. I think that's a good way of putting it. Or just really rusty. Just sometimes you need to go before you go into trial. If you haven't been into trial for a while, you need to go and hang out in a courtroom that's having a lot of trials and refresh your memory. I think he's just rusty. I think on that. Yes, thank you, VC. Yes, I do need to. Thoughts on? I think his credibility was maintained. I will have a final thought on that after I get through the rest of his transcripts. But I think so far from what I've read, his credibility is fine. There was one flag on the field when he started dancing around this word lie, and that's kind of a lawyer thing. So. I think he recognized that was a bit of a flag and came back and said, okay, let's call it whatever you want to call it, whatever. But I think that's a flag on the field, and we'll see if there are any other ones. But I don't think, I mean, it's not detrimental. I think you can't be on the stand for 3 days and not have a few flags. I think that would be impossible. So I don't see that it was a problem. How much if the defense case came from Trump's request? Great question, Colorado. And he's got a right to assist in his own defense. He has an absolute right to do that under the Constitution. And so if he says to his lawyers, I want you to put on, this person, Costello, and they're like, wow, it's going to really mess your case up. If those attorneys can't use all of their collective power of persuasion and years of knowledge and dedication to a field where we are setting out and persuading people, if that's not working on Mr. Trump and he's like, I want him, there you go. It didn't work. It didn't work. Well, right. And 45. So Mr. Trump, I would say coming at it from, if Mr. Trump wants to tell his side of the story, he's telling it to the media. He needs to tell it in a place where there aren't any rules about facts and telling the truth. Mr. Trump cannot tell his side of the story in a way that'll make him comfortable if he is going to be called out for lying. He can't do it. And that then eliminates the courtroom for him. He cannot testify because you get called out for lying on the stand. So he has to find another place to tell his story. I missed why they cleared the courtroom. Yeah, so there was a witness who was just getting absolutely inappropriate with the judge. Rules about facts, right? Right. So if there's a place where he can, go on and on without any rules about facts, that's where he needs to tell a story. That's where he will, that's what works best for him. But it's not, that place is not a courtroom. And no matter how much you try, no matter how much Mr. Blanche tries or any of these people try, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Yeah, so they don't recognize this. Well, right. And, a lot of it has to do with, I don't want to see it. So they don't want to acknowledge that there are lies. There's so many lies. There's no way that you can't recognize that something has to be a lie. And then you have to change your thought. Well, maybe lies aren't that bad. Or maybe lies from this person aren't that bad because, this person's lying for my benefit, lying to make my life better. And, this is that really the slippery slope that you start going down when you start making excuses for bad behavior. And you start saying, well, I don't mind some of my rights being taken away as long as, my best interest is what they're trying to do. And so it becomes that slippery slope. And that's why this idea of saying everyone needs to, have the same rules when we're in court, when we're using the Constitution, that's why we've got to have that bare bones basics so that we don't start saying, well, this person doesn't have to follow the Constitution. Well, that person doesn't because, they've got our best interest at heart. That's when things start going bonkers. So we have to watch that. So Mr. Trump, he has to tell the truth when he's in court. So if he wants to tell his story the way he wants to tell it, he's not going to be able to do it in court. I think there was a wise choice. I don't know, Sheila. I think that's weird. I think that's really weird to have like a, I don't mean to offend like barbershop groups, but it's like, I thought they were going to start singing. Like, are we going a cappella? What's going on here? And they're going to start going up and down. That's when I see that, to me, it just seems like a circus, like, oh, what a show. It's just ridiculous to me. And like, what kind of, where's your self-respect, people? Get some self-respect. What the heck is going on? What are we doing here? Are we like peacocks trying to get a mate? What's happening here? It's really like, what are you doing? Well, they might say part of their job is sitting in the courtroom in order to get the support from, this group of people. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But yeah, again, have some self-respect. But I think that it's clear that many of them don't. That's just not important to them. So that's fine. Like a wedding party. It could be, well, yeah, come on. Where's Mr. Trump's a bride? They're like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, it was cringy. And, if you're going to wear a ribbon, I get it. If you're going to wear a pin, I get it. But if you're wearing a bright red tie, come on. Come on. I think there was I can't remember who it was. There was a night show. There was a pundit who had shown Barron crossing the stage to get his high school diploma. Like, good for him. Congrats, Barron. And he was wearing this red sash, and the commentator was like, "Oh, look, he borrowed his dad's tie." And I was like, "What? That's genius. Who wrote that? Who wrote it?" Genius. You need to pay that person more. Pay that writer more money. It was so funny. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even stand it. Anyway, yeah. So, right. I wonder if they're trying to transition from the hats. That was my other thought. Like, are the hats like toxic now? So we got to move from the hats to the ties. I don't know. I just don't know. It's very interesting. I've not seen a lot of the hats lately. So before it seems like there were hats all over the place. And now it's like, well, I don't want to ruin my hair. So I think that's where we're at. Like, oh my gosh. Yes. So right, Mads. Right. You're a bit on the nose with that. Yeah, I'm thinking the ties are going to come soon. I think, yeah, they're ruining red ties. I know. And come on, we love red. We love that. But now I'm like, I just don't know. I just don't know. Like, does this red make me look like I have no self-respect? Like, that's what I say when I look in the mirror now. Not, does it look good on me? Does it bring out my hair? No, it's like, do I look like I don't have self-respect? Like, that's the call now. I think so. The cheap comb over. It's funny. I've never seen a red hat where I've lived. Oh, well, that must be nice. I don't know. Oh, my goodness. Not going to wear the red ties. Well, you never know. You never know, right? You never know. I mean, why not? Everyone can. It's okay to have goals, everyone. Oh, my gosh. I know. I know. Ties are the summer look. Right. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, we've got the aviator shades, right, for President Biden, and then we've got the red ties for the lack of self-respect. Oh, I kid everybody. Hey, First Amendment, wait a minute. Oh, blue suits and red. I know. Red well, I don't know. That might be a little bit on the nose too, Dolores. They ran out of hats. Really? And they bought out the ties. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness. What is happening in the world? Oh my gosh. Well, if anyone's interested, apparently Midas Touch has a subcategory for Mr. Cohen if you're interested in a t-shirt. As does Stormy. I feel like I have to plug Miss Daniels. She's got merch too. I mean, go and get the merch. Red tie event. I don't know about that, everyone. I don't know. It's getting a little crazy. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, with that, everyone, I'm going to have to go ahead and close it up for now. Again, because of my some summer schedule changes and things that are going on, I will need to be coming on lives kind of earlier in the mornings instead of in the evenings for the next few days, everyone. I will be able to make a post. I will post at least 2 hours, probably about 2 hours almost exactly before I go live. So look for a post around that time if you want confirmation that I will be. Other than that, this 10:30 Central Time works out okay. There may be times when I need to go a little bit earlier and so on, just until my summer schedule kind of firms up a little bit. So I will not be able to come back on in the evening, but it's been such a blast to come and hang out this morning. We did Michael Cohen #3 today, and I will be having one of them posted on my Tube of You each day, and we will kind of we'll make up some time in the air, as I like to put it, when it comes to these next few days when we don't have court. I should be able to get some more readings done. So yes, always good to see you, Mats. And thank you to all of my wonderful moderators, as always. So very, very thankful. for your time and energy. So I will sign off for now and wish you all the best of days. I will try to get some fun posts up as well. So take care, everyone. Hope to see you tomorrow. You can check back and make sure I will be back. So see you all tomorrow, everyone. Fingers crossed.